No one wanted to hire the one-eyed, one-armed alien mother looking for work, except a human. Nerith Spire's hiring plaza stretched out under white ceiling strips that never flickered. The light erased shadows and made the metal floor shine like polished stone. Footsteps created a steady rhythm, mixed with the quiet hum of hollow screens that floated above each kiosk. Everything here moved with purpose, quick, organized, and different. Sarah Nalev stood near the edge of the flow, trying to look composed even as her legs stiffened. She had been in this plaza since first bell. Her body showed it, shoulders tight, breathing shallow from holding herself together. Hunger pressed at her ribs. Her violet skin glowed faintly along her collarbones under the harsh light. A faded work coat slipped from her good shoulder each time she shifted. Her asymmetric dark dress clung to her waist and hips, cut high on her thighs for ease of movement. Practical, not elegant, though the way it curved around her made some people look twice. Her long white hair, brushed neatly that morning, now fell in uneven waves down her back. Where her right arm should have been, there was only a smooth curve of skin ending at her shoulder. She had lived with that loss for years, but the plaza's bright lighting made the absence feel newly exposed. Her daughter, Leary, kept close to her left side. The girl pressed her forehead lightly against Sarah's hip, fingers curling around the fabric of the dress. Leary had been quiet all morning, not from obedience, but from experience. She recognized rejection before people spoke it. Her long white hair, lighter than Sarah's, was tied in two uneven tails, already falling apart. Sarah placed a hand on her daughter's head. "Stay close," she whispered. "I am," Leary said, her voice soft. A kiosk chimed. A recruiter waved Sarah forward without looking up. Sarah approached. Her boots clicked softly on the tile. The woman behind the kiosk finally glanced at her file. Nalev, Sarah, previous work, factory hygiene. Single parent dependent, she read. Injury status, permanent. Her gaze lifted, moving across Sarah's face, then her missing arm, then the child. "What kind of employment are you seeking?" "Cleaning, inventory, food prep," Sarah said. "I learn fast. I can adapt my pace." "With one arm," the recruiter replied. "Yes." The recruiter exhaled through her nose. She tapped the screen with quick, impatient motions. "We need full capability for open positions today. Heavy crates, fast turnover. Your situation doesn't match our requirements." "I have done heavy work," Sarah said. "I adjust my stance and use body weight." "That won't meet our safety demands," the recruiter answered. "And you can't leave a child unattended on shift." Sarah's good eye hardened. The recruiter closed her file. "Next," she called. Sarah stepped aside, pulse quickening, not from surprise, but from the repetition of it. She pressed her lips together until they stopped trembling. Leary tugged her dress. "We could try one more," the girl whispered. "We will," Sarah said. They moved to another kiosk. Another refusal. Then another. Each rejection felt sharper because of how casually it was delivered. One recruiter didn't bother finishing his sentence after seeing the missing arm. Another asked if Sarah had considered remote work options, her tone making it clear she meant invisible work. A third smiled too kindly while explaining that customers prefer symmetry. By late cycle, the plaza's temperature shifted slightly as the ventilation changed patterns. People thinned out. Most kiosks dimmed their screens and switched to internal logs. Sarah's legs hurt from standing. Her stomach tightened again. She calculated their credits in her head. 9. Enough for grain noodles and maybe a sliver of meat if she bargained well. She watched another kiosk go dark. "We will get food soon," she told Leary. "With meat?" Leary asked. "If they have cheap cuts." Leary nodded, though her expression fell slightly. A guard near the far rail glanced at them. This one had a bored expression, tapping his wristband with slow, rhythmic clicks. He had noticed them hours ago. His attention lingered a beat too long each time he scanned the area. Sarah kept her posture straight, not wanting to look like someone loitering. She took a careful breath. Her chest tightened with the familiar mix of fear and stubbornness. She needed work. She needed stability for Leary. Returning tomorrow meant losing another day of meals. A voice cut through the low noise of the plaza. "You've been here since first bell." Sarah turned. A human man stood a few steps away, watching her with a steady, unreadable expression. He wore a dark uniform jacket, unbuttoned at the throat. His boots were scuffed from walking, not from neglect. A small scar drew a line along his jaw, pale against his skin. His brown eyes focused directly on her face, calm, assessing but not cold. Her shoulders tensed. Most people who approached her like this wanted to offer pity or advice. She braced herself. "I have," she said. He nodded once, confirming something to himself. "And you're still standing," he said. "Can you start tomorrow?" The words struck her harder than the rejections had. For a moment, she forgot how to breathe. "I can start now," she said, the response slipping out before she could reconsider. He gave a brief, tired half-smile, more an acknowledgement than an expression of amusement. "Willie Arden," he said. "Hydra-lift operations. Nerith Spire." He lifted a small tablet. His ID band pulsed blue. "What do you want from me?" Sarah asked carefully. "A worker who won't quit halfway through a shift," he said. "Someone who shows up early. Someone who doesn't break under pressure." He looked at her missing arm, not with hesitation, but with calculation. "My crew skip corners," he said. "I need accuracy. And someone who sees what others don't bother to look at." "You know my limitations," Sarah said. "I know your file," Willie answered. "The people who wrote it have never worked in a bay. I have." He gestured at the plaza with his tablet. "You walked the length of this floor for hours," he said. No raised voice, no panic, no sitting down. "That tells me what I need to know." Sarah's chest tightened. She looked at Leary. The girl stared at Willie, curious but cautious. "What work is it?" Sarah asked. "Hydra lift bay hygiene and inventory," he said. "Cleaning lift tracks, wiping sensors, tagging crates, reporting leaks. It's not glamorous. It's steady." "And the child?" Sarah asked. "You live in the staff wing," he said. "Safe. Quiet. I set your shifts. We work around her needs." Sarah stared at him, tried to read any sign of hidden expectations, but he gave none. His tone stayed even. "It's a trial period," he said. 2 cycles. If you can't keep pace, you move on. If you can, I keep you." "People will talk," she said. "They already do," Willie replied. He stepped closer, not enough to crowd her, but enough that the onlookers understood the conversation mattered. "Do you want the job?" he asked. Sarah looked down at Leary. The girl's face held exhaustion and a small, fragile hope. Leary deserved more than grain noodles and worn-out hallways. Then she raised her chin. "Yes," she said. Willie turned the tablet toward her. "Thumb here." She pressed her thumb to the glowing field. A soft chime followed. "Staff Nalev, Sarah," the system announced. "Status, trial hire. Housing assigned." The guard near the rail straightened at the update. His eyes flicked briefly to Willie, more cautious now. Willie tucked the tablet under his arm. "Registration closes soon," he said. "Follow me." Sarah did not move at first. A lifetime of being dismissed made her hesitate. Her mind raced. Fear of the unknown, stress from the day, and a small flare of disbelief. Then Leary squeezed her hand. "We go?" the girl asked. Sarah nodded once. "We go." She stepped forward. Willie walked beside them, matching her pace. He didn't guide her by the arm or look back to check if she kept up. He walked as if he expected her to remain at his side. They reached the inner corridor doors. The translucent panels reflected their silhouettes. One tall human man, one one-armed alien woman, one small child. Willie tapped the access panel with his wristband. The door opened. Cold, clean air drifted out. Sarah looked at the plaza one last time. The bright floor, the kiosks, the places where she had been turned away again and again. Then she stepped through the doorway with Leary pressed against her hip, the unfamiliar scent of staff corridors filling her lungs. The door closed behind them. The sound was quiet but final. The staff corridor felt colder than the plaza. The air carried a faint chemical scent, cleaner, metal, something like dried ozone. The lighting softened here, less harsh than the plaza lamps. Narrow panels along the ceiling cast a muted glow across the walls. The space hummed lightly, as if machinery hidden behind the panels ran constantly. Sarah tightened her hold on Leary's shoulder as they walked. The girl kept close, her small steps almost silent on the rubberized floor. Her eyes drifted to the wall markings, arrows, numbers, color-coded lines. She traced one with her finger until it stopped at a door. Willie kept a steady pace a half step ahead of them, not rushing, not slowing. He glanced back only once to make sure they hadn't fallen behind. "How far is the unit?" Sarah asked. "2 corridors up," he said. "4th door on the left." His voice held no tension, but his stance did. His shoulders stayed squared, posture set with the kind of alertness that came from years of watching for problems. Sarah recognized it. Many people moved with caution. Few wore it like a natural extension of their body. Leary tugged Sarah's dress. "Is it loud where we live?" she asked. "No," Willie said. "Staff wing runs quiet. Hydro lines are insulated." Sarah studied him for a beat. He answered the child without hesitation, as if he expected questions from her too. A door slid open as they passed a junction. A woman in a maintenance vest stepped out, holding a steaming food tray. The smell of cooked meat drifted into the hall, something savory, slightly charred. Leary's stomach growled softly, and she pressed closer to Sarah. The woman looked up. Her gaze jumped from Sarah's missing arm to Leary's hair to Willie's uniform. Her lips pressed together. She stepped aside quickly. Willie didn't acknowledge the reaction. He kept walking. At the corner, Sarah spoke again. "You knew we had no place to go after today," she said. "I guessed," Willie replied. "Most people who stay in the plaza past mid-cycle don't have backup plans." Sarah let out a slow breath. "You could have left us there." "I could have," he said. He didn't elaborate. They reached the staff wing. A security panel scanned Willie's wristband, then chimed. The door unlocked with a clean, low hiss. Inside, the hallway was narrower, warmer. The walls were a softer shade, not the cold gray of work corridors. Small vents released gentle streams of climate-controlled air. Leary immediately relaxed her shoulders. Willie pointed ahead. "Your unit is there." He led them to a compact door with a small light above it. He tapped his wrist against the panel. The system confirmed the new assignment, then unlocked the door. "Go in," he said. Sarah stepped through first. The entry opened into a small living area. Fold-out bed against the wall, soft lighting, a low table. The kitchen space was narrow but clean. A sealed container sat on the counter, food still warm. Leary walked in slowly, her eyes sweeping across every corner. She touched the table, the folded blanket, the light panel. When she tested the floor with a small hop, the muffled sound told Sarah the room was well insulated. She exhaled quietly, relief mixed with unease. Safety always brought both. Willie stepped inside but stayed near the door. "There's running water," he said. "Tap left for hot, right for cold. Enough pressure for showers." Sarah nodded. "There's a small sleeping nook for the child," he continued. "Curtain for privacy. Not much, but better than a hallway bench." Leary peeked into the nook. The mattress looked soft. A tiny light shaped like a star glowed faintly on the wall. Sarah turned to Willie. "What do you need me to know before tomorrow?" "Shift starts at 5th bell," he said. "I'll meet you in the East Bay. We're something you can move in." "This dress is fine," she said. "It works," he agreed. "But if you prefer work fabric, I can requisition a uniform dress. Tailored to your side." Sarah hesitated. "Why do you offer that?" "It's standard for staff," Willie said. "Not charity." She studied him again, searching for hidden intent. His face stayed neutral, voice steady. "Training will be direct," he added. "I'll walk you through lift tracks, sensor panels, hazard points. You'll pick it up fast. And if I don't," she asked quietly, "then we adjust, or we move you to a different task. Not everything in hydrolifts demands 2 hands." His answer came too quickly to be comforting, but not dismissive. He meant it as reassurance in his own way. Leary approached him cautiously. "Do we get to eat now?" she asked. Willie looked at her, then at Sarah. "Yes," he said. "Food is on the counter." Sarah moved to the container. Steam escaped when she lifted the lid. Inside were slices of seared meat over dark grain, soaked in a thin broth with flecks of green seasoning. Leary's eyes widened. "This is for us?" she asked. "Yes," Sarah said softly. Her throat tightened. She hadn't expected anything more than a key code. Willie turned toward the door. "I'll let you settle in," he said. If the ventilation hum sounds too loud, tap the wall panel twice. It'll adjust. Sarah took a step toward him. You didn't tell me why you really hired me. He paused with his hand on the door. I saw someone who kept going when she had every reason to stop, he said. The Spire needs workers like that. He opened the door halfway, then added, without looking back, and your daughter shouldn't sleep in hallways. He stepped out and let the door slide shut. Sarah stood still, letting the quiet of the room sink in. For the first time in months, the air around her didn't smell of transit dust or overcrowded shelters. Leary climbed onto the bench and waited, legs folded beneath her. Sarah served the food, thin cuts of meat, dark grains, a small portion of vegetables. She placed a larger share on Leary's plate without comment. The girl took a bite and smiled in a way she hadn't all day. Sarah sat beside her, feeling the stiffness in her back slowly release. She ate carefully, savoring every bite. The warmth spread through her stomach, grounding her. After a while, Leary leaned against her side. Do we stay here forever? The girl asked. Sarah looked around the small room. Clean walls, warm light, a door that locked, the faint smell of seasoned broth, the sound of Leary chewing quietly beside her. We stay as long as we work, she said. Can you do the work? Leary asked. Sarah rested her hand on the girl's head. Yes, she said. I can. Later that night, when Leary finally fell asleep in her nook, Sarah stood alone by the sink. Water ran over her hand, steady, warm, reliable. She watched it for a long moment. The fear remained, but now it carried possibility. Tomorrow would decide everything. Fifth bell arrived before Sarah felt ready. She dressed quietly, careful not to wake Leary too soon. The staff unit's low light cast a pale glow over the room as she tied her hair back with a thin band she'd found near the sink. A few strands fell loose, brushing the side of her face. She left them. Pulling them tight always made her head ache. Her dress, dark, fitted, sleeveless on one side, hung neatly over her curves. She adjusted the utility strap Willie had dropped off outside her door at dawn. The strap looped across her torso and held cleaning tools at her left hip. It freed her remaining hand and kept the weight centered. Whoever had designed it understood balance. Leary stirred in the nook, rubbing her eyes. You're leaving? She asked, voice rough with sleep. Only for a few hours, Sarah said. You'll stay here until the neighbor checks in. The Spire required supervised attendance during work shifts. Willie had arranged a neighbor, an older woman in the staff wing, to look in on Leary. He had mentioned it with a quick, matter-of-fact tone, as if it were routine. Will he be nice? Leary asked. She will, Sarah corrected gently. Her name is Mara. She helped raise 4 nieces. She'll bring breakfast. Meat, Leary mumbled. If she can't afford it, Sarah said, smiling faintly. A soft chime announced someone at the door. Sarah opened it to find Mara, small, gray hair tied back, holding a warm bowl covered with cloth. The smell of seasoned grain and cooked root vegetables drifted upward. For the child, Mara said. She nodded at Sarah with a mixture of curiosity and acceptance. Go. Supervisor Arden's strict with timing. Sarah thanked her and stepped out. The corridor buzzed with early shift energy. Workers walked quickly, adjusting jackets and tool belts. Sarah blended into the flow, though some still stared at her missing arm. Their glances slid away the moment they realized she saw them. She found Willie waiting near the East Bay entrance. He leaned against a column, arms crossed, jacket unbuttoned. His eyes moved over her quickly, checking readiness, not appearance. You're early, he said. You said 5th bell. I said I'd meet you at 5th bell. You're 10 minutes ahead. She wasn't sure if that was approval or an observation, but he pushed off the wall and motioned her forward. Come, I'll show you the routes. The hydrolift bay opened into a tall chamber lined with vertical tracks. The platforms moved with controlled speed, humming as they rose and fell. Warning lights blinked along the rails. Air smelled faintly of metal and war machinery. Sarah kept a careful distance from the edge. Willie noticed. You'll get comfortable with it, he said. It's loud now because cycle start is heavy. He wasn't wrong. Workers loaded crates onto platforms, shouting instructions over the noise. Some nodded at Willie with obvious respect. Others glanced at Sarah, confused by her presence, but unwilling to question him directly. Willie led her to a maintenance station. Narrow counter, stacked cloths, cleaning solution, data tags, and a voice scanner. You'll clean doors, wipe sensors, and log damage, he said. Start with the lower tracks. They collect dirt fast. He handed her a short-handled brush with a grip modified for one-handed use. You'll need this. If anything feels awkward, tell me. We adjust tools, not people. The simplicity of the statement lingered. She lowered her gaze, grounding herself before the noise swallowed her thoughts. How do I tag faults? She asked. He tapped the scanner. Say the bay number and the issue. The system records your voice. No need for manual entry. She nodded and moved toward the first lift. Her steps were steady, cautious but confident. She wiped the metal surface, feeling the texture shift from grime to clean under the cloth. The movement required her whole body, leaning slightly, shifting her weight, using her shoulder to brace. Yet it worked. She found a rhythm quickly. Willie watched her from distance at first, arms folded. When another worker approached him, questioning with a raised brow, he shut it down with a calm look. She's on my roster, he said. If there's a problem, speak to me. There was no argument. After 20 minutes, he walked over. Pace yourself, he said. Bay 3 is tougher. The door jams sometimes. Is that dangerous? She asked. Only if you stick your head inside, he said, which you won't. Sarah allowed a tiny, reluctant smile. He crouched beside the door mechanism and pointed. Watch. When the panel loses calibration, it stutters. You'll hear it before you see it. The door stuttered, quick metal vibration. She listened, memorizing the sound. That, he repeated. Tag it when it happens. Don't fix it. That's my team's job. Sarah nodded. Understood. They worked in companionable silence until one of the senior schedulers, tall, sharp expression, uniform perfectly pressed, walked toward them holding a tablet. Supervisor Arden, she said. I need roster confirmation. Who is this? She gestured at Sarah. My staff, Willie said. You hired her without clearance? She's flagged for limited mobility. Yes. She's also a dependent carrier. That reduces flexibility. It doesn't reduce output. Her logs already show. You assessed her without a trial. The scheduler cut in. Sarah straightened, jaw tightening. The scheduler shifted her gaze to Sarah. Can you truly keep pace in this sector? We operate under strict efficiency metrics. Sarah opened her mouth, but Willie stepped in, voice even. She met expectations in the first 20 minutes, he said. Clean sensors, full logs, no missed marks. If you need numbers, I have them. The scheduler hesitated. Willie handed her his tablet without breaking eye contact. She scanned the data. Her expression faltered. Fine, the scheduler said. But if her output drops? It won't, Willie said. My office will review the case, she added. You do that, he said. She turned sharply and walked off, heels striking the metal with clipped annoyance. Sarah released her breath slowly. She didn't need to speak like that, she said. She did what she always does, Willie replied. Don't take it on yourself. He picked up the cleaning cloth and placed it back in her hand. Continue, he said softly. You're doing well. The shift unfolded steadily. By the last hour, Sarah's legs trembled from exertion, but she didn't slow. Her dress stuck slightly to her skin from the heat of the machinery. Dirt smudged her thigh where she had braced against a railing. Her white hair loosened from its tie, strands brushing her cheek. Willie noticed but said nothing. Instead, he knelt beside the lower track and gestured for her to join him. You missed this corner, he said quietly. Not a complaint, just precision. She leaned closer, inhaling the scent of machine oil. Show me, she said. He reached past her to clean the tight space, his arm brushing lightly against her back. The contact surprised her. Not invasive, not hesitant. Just real, steady, and entirely professional. Yet it lit something inside her, a warmth she didn't understand fully. When the shift ended, he walked her back to the staff corridor. Workers passed them, several staring openly now. Sarah adjusted her coat. They think you favor me. They can think what they want, Willie said. You earn your place here. She looked at him, searching for any sign of uncertainty. You didn't answer when I asked yesterday, she said. Why did you really come down to the plaza? He paused at the door to her unit. I served 8 years in fleet operations, he said. I watched too many capable people get discarded because someone else decided they were inefficient. I'm done with that. He met her gaze directly. When I see someone still fighting after the system tells them to quit, I don't walk away. The door slid open behind her. Inside, Leary jumped up from the table, smiling wide with leftover breakfast smeared on her cheek. You came back, she said, throwing her arms around Sarah's waist. Sarah held her close, her own muscles shaking now that the work was done. Willie stepped back, giving them space. Rest, he said. Tomorrow is harder. Sarah's good eye softened. I'll be ready. I know, he said. He turned and walked down the hall, jacket swinging lightly with each step. His posture stayed firm, but there was a quiet ease in his stride, like a man who had made the right choice and didn't need to justify it. Sarah closed the door gently. For the first time in a long time, the day behind her felt like a beginning rather than a delay. Sarah woke before the first tone of the Spire's morning cycle. Her muscles ached from the previous day, hips tight, legs heavy, shoulders stiff from constant bracing, but she pushed herself upright. The room was dim, lit only by the narrow strip above the sink. Leary slept curled beneath the thin blanket, one hand tucked under her cheek. Sarah washed her face with cool water, letting it run down her neck. The tap hummed steadily. Simple things like consistent water pressure still felt unfamiliar. She dressed in the same fitted dark dress from the day before, fastening the strap that held her work tools. She tightened it across her ribs, testing her range of motion. The lower hem brushed her thighs with each step. A soft knock sounded at the door. She opened it to find Mara again, holding another bowl of warm food, grain porridge mixed with small pieces of yellow root. The scent was comforting, mild, almost sweet. For the child, Mara said. Supervisor Arden already passed through. He moves early. He was here, Sarah asked. At dawn, Mara replied. Probably checking corridors before his teams arrive. Sarah thanked her and carried the bowl inside. Leary sat up, eyes half open. Eat, Sarah said. I need to go soon. Will today be harder? Leary asked. Yes, Sarah said honestly, but manageable. She brushed a loose strand of white hair from the girl's face. Leary leaned into the touch, then focused on her food. Sarah pressed a kiss to the top of her daughter's head and left the unit. The corridor was quieter this morning. Only a few workers passed through, jackets zipped, boots squeaking faintly on the polished floor. Sarah joined the flow, adjusting her strap again when it shifted. Willie waited at the same spot as yesterday, checking something on his wristband. His posture was more alert today, shoulders squared, stance grounded. You're early again, he said without looking up. Sarah stopped beside him. I don't want to fall behind. He glanced at her tools, then at her dress. The strap fits better today. I adjusted it, she said. Good, he said. Small things make the work smoother. They walked together toward the hydrolift bay. As they approached, Sarah noticed something she hadn't seen the day before. A narrow side corridor branching off the main chamber, its lights dimmer, its door marked with hazard labels. What's in there? She asked. Storage, Willie said. Old parts, spare filters, things nobody wants to sort. Not your assignment. Not yet. She caught the subtle qualifier, but didn't ask further. Inside the bay, the noise was already building. Lifts moved in steady patterns. Workers shouted low numbers. Sparks flickered from a welding station in the back. The metallic scent of heated rails mixed with the sharp tang of cleaning solution. Willie handed her a new tool, a longer brush with angled bristles. Today you clean the upper sensors, he said. Requires reach and balance. Will it be unstable? She asked. Only if you lean too far. Keep your feet wide. Use the rail for support. He demonstrated quickly, placing his feet shoulder-width apart, gripping the rail with one hand, stretching with the other to reach the height of the sensor. Sarah watched each movement carefully. I can do that, she said. Show me, he replied. She climbed the small platform, placed her feet as instructed, and used her hip to stabilize herself. Extending her arm, she found the angle of the sensor. A stutter. The lift door vibrated slightly. Willie reacted before she lost balance. He stepped in, bracing the rail with one hand, steadying the platform with the other. "You heard the stutter," he said. "Good, but don't lean in when it happens." "I wasn't expecting it," she said. "You will next time." He didn't step back immediately. His presence was steady, grounding, the kind that calmed rather than crowded. When she regained full balance, he nodded and moved away. They continued through the tasks in a quiet rhythm. Sarah worked methodically, her movements growing more confident. The angle brush helped with reach. Her posture adapted to compensate for her missing arm, precise, controlled. Between tasks, Willie corrected her form with brief instructions. "Shift your weight. Don't twist your spine. Use your hip for leverage." His tone remained even, not harsh. Each correction fit the moment naturally. By mid-cycle, sweat gathered along Sarah's collarbone. Her hair stuck to the back of her neck. Dirt smeared across her thigh where she'd braced against a rail. The ache in her legs returned, sharper than yesterday, but she held her pace. During a short break, Willie handed her a sealed drinking pouch. "Hydrate," he said. She hesitated. "Is this part of staff allowance?" "It's mine," he said. "Take it." She drank slowly. The water was cool, slightly mineral-rich, refreshing after the bay's heat. "You trained many workers before?" she asked. "A few," he said. "Most don't stay long. Too much noise. Too much routine." "And you?" she asked. "I stayed because the work is honest. Direct. No politics unless someone brings it in." His eyes shifted toward the scheduler's office above the bay. The implication was clear. Sarah lowered her drink pouch. "She didn't approach me today." "She won't," Willie said. "Your numbers yesterday were solid. People back off when data supports you." He looked at her for a moment, measuring her posture. "How's the shoulder?" "Sore," she admitted, "but manageable. If the pain spikes, say something. I'm not fragile." "I didn't say you were." The silence between them carried weight, not discomfort. When the break ended, he led her to a section she hadn't cleaned yet, a stretch of rails near a heavy machinery pit. The air here felt hotter, thick with rising steam. "This area collects grime faster," he said. "Cleaning here keeps the upper lifts from jamming." As she leaned in, the heat brushed against her skin. The rail vibrated faintly under her hand. She wiped it clean, slow and steady. Her dress caught on a bolt, pulling slightly at the hem. She adjusted it, then continued. Willie crouched nearby, checking a panel. He spoke without looking up. "You work harder than most people I've supervised." "It's survival," she said quietly. "It's skill," he replied. His tone left no space for argument. When the shift finally ended, Sarah felt her legs shake again, but she stood tall. Willie walked with her back toward the corridor. "You kept pace today," he said. "Tomorrow you'll handle Section 4 alone." "That's the quiet side of the bay," she said. "And the hardest. Less foot traffic means you rely on hearing and instinct." She absorbed this silently. "If you're not ready, we adjust," he added. "I'll be ready," she said. At her door, they paused. The hall was empty, lights soft, air cool. "What did the schedulers say after reviewing the numbers?" Sarah asked. "That you exceeded expectations," he said, "and that I may be underestimating your potential." Sarah's brow lifted slightly. "Underestimating?" Her words, not mine. Before she could respond, the door slid open from inside. Leary peeked out, her face lighting up the moment she saw Sarah. "You're back," the girl said. She grabbed her mother's hand, tugging gently. "Mara made soup. It has real greens." Willie stepped back. "Eat. Rest. I'll send tomorrow's assignment to your panel." Sarah met his eyes. "Thank you." "For what?" "Not answering for me. You didn't need me to." He turned and walked down the hallway, his stride steady, jacket brushing lightly with each step. Sarah entered the unit, closing the door behind her. The heat of the bay still clung to her skin, but beneath it was something steadier, something that hadn't existed in her life for a long time. A sense of forward movement. The next morning began with colder air in the staff wing. A quiet draft slipped through the corridor seams as Sarah stepped outside her unit. She had tied her long white hair higher than usual to keep it off her neck during the heavier tasks Willie had hinted at the night before. The fitted dark dress felt tighter around her ribs today, not from shrinkage, but from how her muscles stiffened overnight. Leary was awake when Sarah left, drawing on a small scrap sheet Mara had given her. The girl had pressed the paper into Sarah's remaining hand and said she would wait up tonight, no matter how late. Sarah carried that small promise with her as she walked toward the lifts. Willie waited at the same junction, but something in his posture had changed. His shoulders were set lower, jaw tighter, as if he hadn't slept enough. He glanced at her once, checking the tools on her strap before they even greeted. "You're early," he said. "So are you," she replied. He exhaled once, steadying himself. "We're taking a different route today." He turned without explanation. Sarah followed. They moved through a narrow maintenance hall she hadn't seen before. Pipes ran overhead, humming with the deep pulse of the Spire's water systems. The floor vibrated faintly with the lift engines several tiers below. "Why this way?" she asked. "Scheduler reassigned the teams," he said. "I expected it. You'll see." He pushed open a heavy side door. Heat washed over them immediately. Inside, the upper machinery corridors roared with engine noise. The air felt thick, carrying the metallic tang of condensed steam. Workers usually avoided this zone unless absolutely necessary. The constant pressure made breathing harder, and the walkway was narrow, bordered by exposed conduits. This was deliberate. Someone had sent her here on purpose. Sarah didn't say it. She didn't need to. Willie pointed toward a long rail coated in dark grime. Section 4. You clean it, but you don't crouch. You brace with your legs and pull from the hip. "It was reassigned to me," she said. "Yes," he answered, "and we're handling it." She stepped forward, feeling the walkway shift subtly under her feet. The rail was hotter than expected. She could feel the heat radiating against her thigh. She anchored her stance and began scraping away the grime with controlled, repetitive strokes. Willie stood near the panel to her right, watching the walkway for vibrations. He spoke over the engine noise. "If the pressure rises too sharply, step back. No hesitation." Sarah nodded, her breath steady. Sweat slid down her spine. Her dress clung to her back. She worked in silence. Each motion demanded precision. Losing balance here meant falling into a machinery pit 30 feet below. She didn't let her gaze drift down. Halfway through the rail, she paused to rest her shoulder. The joint burned, but she held it tight. "You're pushing too hard," Willie said. "This is the assignment. It doesn't mean you rush through it." "So you think I can't do it?" she asked. Willie looked up from the panel, eyes steady. "If I thought that, I wouldn't have brought you here. Slow down. You're not proving anything." The word struck sharper than she expected. For a moment, she wondered if he saw how the stress sat behind her ribs, how each new task felt like a test someone else designed to break her before she could settle. She adjusted her stance and returned to the rail. As she worked, the pressure level shifted. A low warning tone vibrated through the walkway. Sarah froze. The rail trembled lightly. Willie reacted instantly. "Back. Now." She stepped back once, twice. A steam valve released beside them, sending out a loud hiss and a blast of hot air. Sarah shielded her face with her arm. Her heart hammered as the walkway rattled. Willie moved between her and the valve, blocking most of the heat with his frame. The moment the pressure stabilized, he lowered his arm. "You all right?" he asked. Her pulse pounded too fast. "Yes." "You didn't move wrong," he said. "The valve misfired. It happens. But it didn't happen yesterday, or the day before. Someone had rerouted tasks with the intention of giving her the hardest zone." Willie saw the conclusion form in her expression. He shook his head once. "Don't give him that power. You're here because you earned the right to be." She swallowed the tightness in her throat. "My daughter asked me this morning if I get punished for working slower than the others." Willie stepped closer. "No, you don't. She hears things," Sarah said. "She sees the way people look at us." His jaw tightened. "Then let's make sure the things she hears tomorrow are different." He glanced back at the unfinished section. "We'll finish this later. You've done enough here for today." They left the machinery corridor. The change in temperature felt like stepping into another world. Cooler air, cleaner scent, quieter hum. When they reached the open bay, the scheduler was standing on the upper walkway with a data pad pressed to her chest, watching them. Her gaze lingered too long. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. Willie lifted his chin slightly, a silent acknowledgement. The scheduler turned away without a word. Sarah broke the silence first. She expected me to fail. She underestimated you, Willie said. And you, Sarah added. Willie didn't respond. He simply walked beside her toward the exit. As they approached the staff wing, Sarah stopped near the corridor that led to her unit. She needed a moment before going inside. She felt the tremor still in her leg from the near fall. Willie noticed. He stood still, waiting. You never told me why you stayed in this division, she said. He thought for a moment. Because it's straightforward. The spire moves because these rails move. And the people who maintain them matter. I like knowing the work leads to somewhere real. That's why you hired me? She asked. That's why I didn't ignore you, he corrected. And why I won't? She held his gaze for a moment longer. The hallway lights reflected in her clear silver eye. Her clouded eye remained pale and unreadable, but he didn't look away from either. Footsteps echoed from down the hall. Mara approaching with a food container. Willie stepped back. Rest. I'll check in tomorrow. Sarah opened her door and found Leary waiting on the floor with the drawing she'd made earlier. It showed 3 figures holding hands. One tall, one small, one with a single arm. The girl lifted it proudly. This is us. Sarah felt her breath catch. Behind her, in the corridor, Willie paused as if listening for something. He stood there a moment longer before walking away. The apartment lights were low when Sarah closed the door behind her. Leary had fallen asleep on the floor beside her drawing, her cheek pressed against the corner of the page. Mara's soup bowl sat empty near the table, still warm. Sarah lifted her daughter gently and laid her on the small bed, tucking the blanket around her shoulders. Leary murmured once, then settled. When Sarah straightened, her legs trembled again. The strain from the machinery walkway clung to her muscles. Heat still pulsed in her shoulder where she had braced against the rail. She stepped quietly into the washroom and let the water run until steam fogged the mirror. She removed her dress slowly, easing the strap off her shoulder with one hand. The fabric fell to the floor. The warm air settled across her violet skin, revealing the marks from the day. Faint red lines along her ribs, dust smudges on her thigh, a streak of oil on her hip. She stepped under the falling water. It struck her skin in steady, sharp bursts, loosening the ache. Her breath released in a long, controlled exhale. Her white hair darkened as it soaked through, hanging heavily down her back. For a moment, she pressed her forehead against the wall, letting the sound of water drown everything else. She didn't hear the door chime at first. It sounded twice before she shut the water and wrapped a towel around her. She opened the door cautiously. Willie stood outside, still in his uniform trousers, shirt damp at the collar from the heat of the machinery corridors. His jacket hung over one arm. His hair was slightly disheveled, the result of sweat drying and being wiped hurriedly away. He looked as if he'd come here directly after leaving the bay. I know it's late, he said quietly. I wanted to check how your shoulder is. Sarah stepped back to let him inside. It's sore. Nothing worse. He glanced toward the washroom, noticing the steam still drifting out. You should finish your shower, he said. I can wait. She didn't move. The towel clung to the lines of her waist and hips, and a single wet strand of white hair slid down her shoulder. His gaze held steady on her face, not drifting lower, but she felt the awareness between them tighten. You came back because the scheduler targeted me, Sarah said. I came back because you were shaken, he answered. And because you were expected to fail in that corridor. You didn't. Her fingers tightened briefly on the towel's edge. You put yourself between me and that valve. I reacted, he said. Anyone would have. That's not true, she said simply. Silence settled between them. The air was thick with steam and the faint scent of the soap she'd been using. Sharp, herbal, a leftover from the supply kit Willie had arranged for her first night. He lifted his jacket and placed it on the table. If you want help with the shoulder, I can check the strain. Nothing invasive. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. She walked to the washroom doorway, retied the towel firmly, and sat on the small stool near the sink. Willie approached slowly, as if giving her time to change her mind. Tell me if anything hurts, he said. He stood behind her, close enough that she felt the heat from his body. He lifted her damp hair, gathering it gently over her left shoulder to expose the right. His hands were warm, steadier than she expected. He traced the muscle line with careful pressure. She inhaled sharply when he reached the knot near her shoulder blade. "Here?" he asked. "Yes," she said. He adjusted his hand, massaging the strain in slow, controlled movements. The pressure didn't hurt. It released the tightness that had been building since the machinery corridor. The water dripping from her hair traced down her collarbone, pooling where the towel wrapped across her chest. "You pushed through a lot today," Willie said. "I didn't want them to think I was misplaced." "You're not misplaced." His fingers pressed along another tense point. "But you shouldn't carry everything alone." Sarah's breath unsteady for a moment. "If I don't, no one else will." His hands paused. "That's not true anymore." He continued, working the tension from her shoulder. His thumb brushed a faint scar along her upper back, the place where a support harness once cut into her during the transport accident. She stiffened. He felt it. "This area?" he asked. "No, the memory." He lowered his hand slowly, giving her space. Sarah turned her head slightly, enough to see him from the corner of her clear eye. He stayed where he was, patient, waiting. "You saw how fast I locked up when the valve burst," she said. "It never leaves me." "I don't expect it to," he said. "I expect you to trust that someone can stand with you when it happens." She looked down at her legs, still damp, bare, streaked with faint lines where her dress had pressed against her skin. Her body felt too exposed, yet she didn't want distance. "Willie," she said quietly, "why are you here?" He stepped around to face her. The steam blurred the edges of the room, framing only the two of them sharply. He crouched in front of her, bringing himself to her height. "Because today someone tried to push you out of a place you earned," he said. "And because when I left, you didn't look finished. You looked like you were holding something in." She swallowed. The towel slipped slightly at her thigh. She adjusted it with one hand. "And now?" she asked. "Now I'm here until you tell me to leave." His voice remained calm, not demanding. She reached out hesitantly, touching his jaw with her fingertips. His stubble brushed her skin, rough, warm. He didn't move closer. He let her decide. Sarah leaned in first. Their lips met in a slow, steady motion. No rush, no imbalance of force. His hand rose to the side of her neck, thumb tracing the line beneath her ear. She shifted forward, pressing her knees together, towel tightening around her body. The kiss deepened without losing control. Heat pooled at her chest and lower belly. Not from the shower, but from the contact, the closeness, the weight of withheld moments finally released. When she pulled back slightly, her breath trembled. "I don't want pity," she said. "You don't have it," he replied. "You have my choice." Sarah stood, letting the towel fall more securely against her curves, edges clinging to her wet skin. She stepped closer, letting her hand rest on his chest. Through the damp fabric of his shirt, she felt the steady rhythm of his breathing. "Stay tonight," she said. His response came without hesitation. "If you want me to." She nodded once. He lifted her into his arms with controlled strength, careful of her shoulder, careful of her balance. She wrapped her legs around his waist, towel loosening as her skin pressed against his. Their bodies aligned naturally, warm on warm, damp on dry. The softness of her curves molded against him, drawing a quiet breath from his chest. He carried her toward the dimly lit bed space, every step measured. And for the first time in years, Sarah let her weight rest fully in someone else's hold. Willie lowered her onto the mattress with slow, deliberate care. The lights in the small room were dim, casting soft shadows across her violet skin. Her damp hair spread against the pillow in pale waves, the towel barely clinging to her curves. She looked up at him without fear, without hesitation, as if the hours spent in the machinery corridor had stripped away whatever distance remained between them. He removed his shirt, letting it fall to the floor. The sight of his bare chest, warm from the heated corridors and marked by old service scars, steadied something in her. He slid onto the bed beside her and brushed a strand of wet hair from her cheek. The towel loosened fully as she moved, revealing the shape of her waist, the softness of her hips, the natural rise and fall of her breathing. "Tell me if anything hurts," he said quietly. "It doesn't," she answered, her voice low. He leaned in again, kissing her with more certainty. His hand moved across her side, tracing the line of her ribs, avoiding the tender place at her shoulder. She arched gently toward him, inviting the closeness rather than enduring it. Her fingers pressed in his back, feeling the tension he carried from the day, the pressure he held when he blocked the valve, the control he used to hide anger at the scheduler. Her towel slipped away completely. She didn't cover herself. She shifted closer, pressing her bare skin against his. Heat rose between them, steady and natural. He moved in a way that made space for her body rather than claiming it. Their breath mingled as he lowered himself against her, legs entwining with hers, movements intentional and careful, the kind that came from watching her reactions instead of assuming them. When he entered her, it happened without force, slow, anchored, her body welcoming him with a quiet inhale. She lifted her hips to meet him, guiding the pace with soft, sure movements. He followed her rhythm, one hand braced beside her head, the other resting along her thigh. She felt his restraint first, then the moment he let it soften, trusting her lead. Her lips brushed his jaw, her breath warm against his skin. She whispered his name once, barely louder than the hum of the apartment systems. He answered not with words, but with a deep emotion, steady and grounded. Their bodies shifted together, creating a rhythm shaped by days of tension and weeks of growing trust. Her clouded eye remained open, unhidden, reflecting the dim light. He kissed it gently before lowering his forehead to hers. She tightened her legs around his hips, drawing him deeper. Their breaths stuttered in unison. Her fingers gripped his shoulders, pulling him against her. When the tension inside her peaked, she held him close, her back arching into the mattress. He followed soon after, holding her tightly as his breath shook against her neck. Neither spoke for a long moment. They stayed pressed together, chests rising and falling in uneven rhythm, skin slick with warmth. Willie eased his weight off her without breaking contact. He pulled the blanket over them and shifted onto his side. She turned with him, pressing her forehead to his collarbone. His arm wrapped around her waist, hand settling over the curve of her hip. "Sarah," he said softly, "you trust me now?" "I do," she whispered. She rested her palm against his chest, feeling the steady beat beneath her hand. It had been years since she had slept beside anyone. Years since she let someone touch her without flinching. Years since she allowed her body to lead instead of freeze. She felt none of her usual fear, only a deep, quiet relief. Later, when the room had fallen into near silence, Willie spoke again. "I'll talk to the scheduler in the morning," he said. "This ends." "No," Sarah murmured, lifting her head slightly. "Let me do my work. Let my numbers speak. That's the part no one can twist." He studied her expression, then nodded. "If that's what you want." She touched the faint scar along his jaw. "You defended me today. I won't have them twist that either." His hand slid along her back, drawing her closer. She felt his breath warm against her hairline. "You're not alone here," he said. "Not anymore." Sarah lay her head on his shoulder and let her eyes close. Her body softened fully against him, bare skin against his, the blanket draped loosely over them both. His thumb traced slow, grounding lines along her spine. Outside the thin apartment window, the spire's night systems shifted to low power mode. The hum deepened, airflow slowed, lights dimmed across the worker wing. For the first time since she lost her arm, Sarah fell asleep with someone's heartbeat under her hand, steady and unguarded. Willie didn't move away. He tightened his arm around her, as if he had decided, silently, firmly, that he wasn't going anywhere. Sarah woke before the lights shifted into morning mode. The room was quiet, warmer than usual, the blanket tangled loosely around her bare legs. Willie's arm rested across her waist, his hand open and relaxed against her stomach. His breathing was deep, steady, without the tension he usually carried after difficult shifts. She watched him for a moment. His face looked different in sleep. No hardened jawline, no guarded posture. Just calm, human, someone who had stood between her and danger without thinking twice. She eased herself gently from beneath his arm. He stirred but didn't wake. She dressed quietly, pulling on the fitted dark dress for her shift. Her muscles felt tender, but not strained. Her body carried a softness she hadn't known in years, warm from the night they shared. In the small kitchen area, she poured water into a cup and drank slowly. The flavor was slightly metallic, Spire's standard, but grounding. She tied her white hair back with a strip of cloth, smoothing the wet strands from the night's heat. Behind her, she heard movement. Willie stepped out of the sleeping alcove, shirtless, hair slightly mussed. He looked at her with the kind of quiet recognition that didn't need explanation. "Morning," he said. She nodded once. "You should rest longer." "I've rested enough." He approached her slowly, as if gauging whether the closeness they shared still held now that daylight approached. She didn't back away. His hand brushed her waist, brief but certain. "Your shift starts soon," he said. "Yes, and yours." "I'll be in the upper bay." The scheduler requested an early inspection. Sarah straightened at the mention. "Because of yesterday." "Because of the attention it drew," he corrected. "Not because of you." She studied him. "Will she interfere again?" "She might try." He paused. "But you're not walking into this alone." He placed his jacket on, fastening only the middle clasp. His eyes lingered on the faint bruise forming near her shoulder, the place his hands had supported her when she lost balance in the machinery corridor. "You all right?" he asked. "I am," she said, more than before. He stepped close enough to rest his forehead gently against hers. "We handle today, together." Sarah didn't answer with words. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, letting the quiet connection settle between them. When she opened them, the tension in her chest had eased. In the next room, Leary stirred awake and peeked out from her blanket. Sarah walked over and knelt beside her. The child blinked sleepily, noticing the softened look in her mother's face. "You slept well," Leary said. "I did," Sarah answered. "Did Mara bring you anything last night?" "She left bread and a small cup of broth," Leary said. "She said you might eat late." Sarah brushed her hair gently. "We'll thank her later." Willie appeared in the doorway, fully dressed now. Leary looked up at him with a curious expression, not wary, but watching him the way children observe things that might matter. "You'll walk with us?" she asked. "Yes," Willie said simply. "If your mother agrees." Sarah nodded. They stepped into the corridor together. It was busier this morning, voices echoing, workers hurrying toward lifts, data pads flashing assignment logs. As they walked, a few people glanced at them. Sarah felt the shift in the stares. Less confusion, more calculation, some quiet acceptance, others resentment. But no one said anything. The scheduler waited near the hydrolift bay, data pad in hand. She stiffened when she saw Willie approach with Sarah and a child at his side. "Supervisor Arden," the scheduler said, "we begin the inspection now." Willie's voice remained calm. "I know." Her gaze flicked to Sarah. "Worker Nalev, you will be reassigned today. Section 4 again." "No," Willie said before Sarah could speak. She completed Section 4 yesterday during a dangerous pressure fluctuation. She's moving to the main platform today. The scheduler's brows tightened. "That area is high visibility. You risk operational flow." "I'm responsible for operational flow," he said, "and for worker placement." The scheduler stared at him. It was clear she wanted to challenge him, but doing so in front of other workers risked showing her intent too plainly. She turned away sharply. "Very well," she said. "Her performance will be monitored." "Good," Willie replied. "Record everything." Sarah stood quiet but anchored. She felt Leary squeeze her hand once before stepping back with Mara, who had appeared behind them, ready to take the child to the communal area. Willie led Sarah onto the main platform. The change was immediate. The space was wide, clean, lit evenly. Workers moved in orderly patterns. No machinery pits. No exposed hazards. The work still demanded strength and precision, but it didn't feel like a test designed to break her. "You earned this," Willie said softly. She met his eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," he said. "Show them why you belong here." She began working. Her movements were steady, confident. She cleaned the rails, recalibrated the small sensors near the lift doors, and organized the supply containers with a precision that had been impossible in the heat of the machinery corridor. She kept a strong stance, adjusting for her missing arm with natural rhythm. Workers stopped to watch, not out of doubt this time, out of recognition. During a short break, Mara approached with a small plate wrapped in a cloth. She handed it to Sarah. "Eat," Mara said. "It's warm." Inside were slices of grilled Orvan fish and soft bread. Sarah took a bite. The flavor was earthy, slightly salty, grounding. "Willie asked me to bring it," Mara added quietly. "He said you might forget." Sarah's gaze drifted to where Willie stood near the upper panel, giving instructions to another worker. He didn't look over, but as if sensing her attention, he adjusted his stance in her direction, subtle, steady. The day continued without sabotage. When the shift ended, the scheduler reviewed the logs and said nothing. Silence itself was concession. As workers dispersed, Willie approached Sarah slowly. "You held your ground," he said. "So did you," she replied. He hesitated for only a moment, then reached for her hand. Not hidden, not in a corner, but here, where people could see. She allowed it. Their fingers interlaced naturally. "We're going to the registry tomorrow," he said. Sarah blinked, chest tightening. "For what?" "For recognition," he said. "Pair unit registration. You, me, and Leary. If you want it." She didn't speak at first. She looked at her hand in his grasp, at the way he held it with quiet certainty. She thought of Leary's drawing. 3 figures joined, not 2. She thought of waking up with his arm around her waist. She thought of the way he stepped between her and danger without hesitation, yet let her stand in front when pride demanded it. "Yes," she said. "I want it." His thumb brushed the back of her hand. "Then it's decided." They walked toward the staff wing together. Leary spotted them and ran forward, weaving between their steps. She grabbed Sarah's skirt with one hand and wrapped her other hand around Willie's fingers. Sarah exhaled slowly, feeling the moment settle inside her with quiet certainty. In the heart of the spire, under the steady hum of the hydrolifts, a new shape formed around them, small, real, and chosen.